So the big question is not so much one of when the US will be defeated militarily by Iran, although that counts, and I'll come to that. But the true big question is when is it that people start looking more critically at the dollar? When is it that the dollar starts breaking? And this is where all four elements I cited compound. The housing crisis, the car crisis, the AI bubble, all of these elements will come together. And then you've got the biggest element of them all, which is Trump. As I said, I expected 10 years to be the time it would take, starting from 2025 when the book was finished, for the US to fall. I said 15 because many times in the past I have been optimistic, and it turned out that it lasted much longer than I thought it would. And it can last a very long time. In my head, I thought the scenario would go something like this. Trump would get in power. He would shake the House down a fair bit. He would start denouncing US aid, some of the most extreme far left stuff, some of the most vile CIA/deep state stuff. I expected him to rock the House, but also to try and serve American power anyway. He did that for barely 2 months. After 2 months' time, most of the ideological extremities, most of the insanity was just abandoned for foreign provocations and geopolitical boxing, I guess, or more like brawling. Drunk brawling, yes. So Trump started going around basically pissing in everyone's face. I can say it more politely, but ultimately that is what he did. He went around Asia and was like, give me money. He went to the Arabs, give me money. Oh, and I'll take the nice golden Boeing too. He went to the Europeans and said, I'm tariffing you. And if you don't want to incur my wrath, you're going to pay everything and you're going to give me investment money, which is nothing more than a shakedown. It's an insulting shakedown. But the EU elites are all CIA selected, so obviously they all said yes. You can't expect von der Leyen to ever fight the US. I mean, the day she does is the day where everything is falling apart. The heavens are falling when you see VDL do something against the Americans. But the point is, he went around and he basically barked and bit everyone, and he did it to China. Getting into a trade war is one thing. Getting into a trade war when you are the biggest importing economy in the world and the biggest hub of import-export in the world, so import spare parts from China, build whatever it is you build, and then export to the Americas and Europe, that's a lot of what the US does these days. And you sort of get this moment where the guy that runs the biggest import-export country in the world goes to every other country in the world and says, by the way, fuck all of you. How did you think that would go down? How did you think that would work out? I mean, I know he's an imbecile. I know I'm asking an empty question. But the fact that nobody could stop this is honestly insane. There is a bunch of things that Trump has done which are objectively self-destructive for the American empire. A bunch of things that are objectively bad. But there's some stuff that isn't so much bad, then it's just, well, frankly, completely retarded. It is supremely stupid in an impressive way. And the tariffs is probably the most impressively stupid and self-destructive thing I've ever seen. Because, of course, if you take it at face value, it sounds like, well, I'm going to tariff imports and that will spur national rebuilding. No. If you tariffed imports of some countries and you started planning for the creation of local industries that replace those imports and you properly invested in them, whether they brought back good returns or not, whether they were very profitable or barely brought in any profits, if you put money where it would build things instead of putting money where it would bring back more money, then that would make sense. It would be a harsh policy, it would be a difficult policy, but it's theoretically possible if you spend less, if you have less debt, if you have less deficit, if you stop washing down your currency into infinity debt and infinity money printing to cover that debt, okay, then it's possible. But what this fat imbecile did is print more than ever, take more debt than ever, ignore every basic rule of financing, and try to get the interest rates to zero as if it was the solve-it-all solution, while shutting down imports. Like, again, the entire American system is you attract foreign capital, you print money to make yourself more attractive than everybody else, then you pretend that you did not print that money, and then when everybody gets the washed down currency, they got screwed, but because they gave you their money, they essentially are now in cahoots with you. Because if they break with you, then they just lost their money and get nothing back. Whereas with you, they might get something. This is essentially how the financial empire of the United States functions. Trump's entire existence, ever since that first month and a half, when we had USAID shut down and Doge and all of his funny stuff that didn't last, almost everything about him, and I do mean everything, is just financially suicidal. He spits in everybody's face while telling them, I'm very rich, so you're going to speak to me more nicely, and I'm going to pay you less because I think I'm paying you too much. Okay, first off, saying I'm very rich and I'm going to pay you less because I don't like you. Yeah, rich people do not get respect while asking to pay less. I don't think I would ever have needed to explain that, but apparently I do. So he acts like a rich guy that wants to be treated like a poor guy while being treated like a rich guy. Basically, he wants to pay less like a poor guy, but he also wants to be treated like he's the richest, most important guy in town. As we say in France, le beurre et l'argent du beurre. Butter and the butter's money. He wants to have his cake and eat it too, which is very common with fraudsters and Americans. But this is fucking insane, even for Americans. So that was the first thing, is the tariffs. And you have to, again, consider the tariffs alongside everything else I said. Housing bubble, car bubble, AI bubble. All of this is giant financial crisis waiting to blow up. And what this fat imbecile did is come and tell to all the suckers that used to give their money to America, essentially the tariff thing on China, on Europe, on everyone. He didn't do it like the Americans always do, which is go around and smile and explain that, if you give us your money, you'll make so much more back. Then they print away money and you get poorer, but you feel like you've gotten a good deal, It was a scam. It didn't scam people, it's worse. He made it a shakedown. Instead of lying, he just went and said, no, you're going to give me money because I'm that important to Europe. You're going to give me some nice tariffs and you're going to pay the tariffs because I don't like the trade deficit to the Chinese. And it's very important to remember the line in the book that I use in the chapter on the 1990s about Clinton. I say, you have to understand that the American system only works for its enemies. What did the CIA do in Europe? They destroyed every single European nationalist, patriot, defenders. Now it's just stooges that say yes. It's yes men who obey America, like von der Leyen, like Merz, or insane leftists. That's the only thing left. Everything else was wiped out. Okay? So they go to Europe, and they essentially say to the Europeans, Bavoy, I'm shaking you down, you're going to give me hundreds of billions, and you better say thank you. Then he goes to China and says, you're going to pay me some nice tariffs and you're going to understand your place number 2. You're going to stay behind. And the Chinese say, oh, you want to fight? Okay, we'll take that fight. Then the Chinese destroyed the tariffs. They showed to Trump that for every single attack they could hit back, and they were not afraid to take every single thing he threw at them, and he realized that he was hurting himself about as much as he was hurting the Chinese. actually more. And behind closed doors, almost all of the tariffs came down. We don't talk about them anymore because they're gone. They've been washed out bit by bit back to what it was before Trump. So the lesson you have to take out of it is when America attacks you, fight back because they're trying to shake you down. And if you don't fight back, then they'll sense that you're weak and attack 10 times more, which is exactly what happened right after with Greenland. I know people have forgotten it because everyone looked at it like, what the fuck am I looking at? And frankly, I myself, again, it's the second biggest, dumbest thing. The tariffs was awful and idiotic and insane. But Greenland is insane in a special little boy way. And I do say this because, of course, he acted in it, if only briefly, but it really feels like a Home Alone moment. I want my Greenland. It's so childish. It's so silly. Like, the guy just said, I want to add land so my name can go down in history. Like, dude, the Europeans are led by giant pussies. Yes. But there's one thing that allowed the Americans to force the giant pussification of European leadership, and it's all the bullshit talk about rights of men, or about the rule of law, about international law. It's the essentially, it was international law for others, but not for me. Rules for thee, but not for me, is how the American empire played ever since the 50s. It's imperialism for me, but not for you. It's rules for me, but not for you. It's financial rules for thee, but not for me, rather, and so on and so forth. It's always been about cheating, but telling others that they have to respect the rules, which is also the main CIA attack vector on the European economy. It's that we must respect the rule of not trading with Russia, which has cheap oil to sell. We must respect the rule to not build more nuclear, but we must also, for example, and I'm literally burning in an extremely hot apartment right now in the middle of a heat wave, we can't have air conditioning. I know it's like unheard of, but one of the ways in which they attacked our economies is that they pushed the local sabotage party, also known as the Green Party, so the German one, the French ones, and the other, they pushed the Green parties to declare that AC was very polluting. Air conditioning is like awful and anti global warming. And so instead what we should do is isolate the buildings. Now the thing is, building isolation can only work if you're willing to throw hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of extra expenditure per building, which most people don't want to do, so we don't do it. And we end up with poorly isolated buildings that also don't have AC. But the point was to make us waste as much money as possible on these supposed isolations. And instead we get almost no new buildings made because of all the regulations. We get no nuclear power plants because of all the regulations. We get no AI. AI companies could come out from everywhere in Europe. We get almost none because of all the regulations. And the imbeciles online, they're like laughing like, ha, 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 Europeans so dumb. No, Europeans infested by CIA. This is not stupidity, this is sabotage. Which is something at this point that I'm repeating like a dying donkey that just screams to his death, but whatever. So we are getting told, we have been getting told for decades and decades that in the name of global warming, we can't have nuclear, we can't have AC, we can't produce, we can't have more babies, we can't have more, what's the word? We can't have more factories. Basically, we have to have nothing, is the real message. And the excuses have always come down to rule of law, human rights, global warming, the same excuses used for the mass invasion of Europe by Africa. Now you got Trump, after these decades of lies, but in his immense stupidity just shows up and says, by the way, I'm just shaking you down, bitch. Okay. Good. Keep doing that.